This is the last of the prepared questions. The topic is crime and elected officials. New York State and City have witnessed some of the most egregious misconduct among elected officials this year. How do you see using the Public Integrity Commission to investigate and stop corruption among elected officials? I'm going to start with Mr. Brodsky.
Anybody who steals or cheats or lies and violates the law should pay the appropriate penalty. I don't care if it's a street crime or an elected official. It strikes me as part of the political dynamic that I'll have to address, that simple truth needs to be stated by all of us. It is so obvious, it is so necessary that there be strong, rigorous law enforcement when public wrongdoing occurs, that there's almost no extra word for it that I can offer this group to say, I'm better than anybody else here, or someone else is worse on that issue. You do that, I've given my life to this. When Tony Seminario takes money and is wired on the floor of the legislature, it's awful for the community, it's awful for the political structure. It makes me extraordinarily, personally upset. But as Attorney General, we're going to make sure that when that happens, there is a remedy that the Attorney General can bring. And that requires a change in law, which I dramatically support, which is to give the Attorney General direct jurisdictional access to those kinds of crimes. You put that jurisdictional change together with the righteousness of my anger, which will be shared by everybody here. And I think we can put the bad guys in jail and stop people who may be thinking about it from even going near the dark place.
Mr. Coffey?
I think that we need the public corruption equivalent of the Martin Act. You've heard about the Martin Act. It's the law that's been on the books for quite a while that AGs have been able to use to clean up Wall Street. It's very broad. It can be used very aggressively, and some people actually say it's been used too aggressively. We need that equivalent to allow the AG to pursue political corruption just as aggressively. We need to clean out the stables in Albany. And so I'm proposing that we have the law amended to provide the AG with the ability to go after public corruption. It's a fact. The Attorney General of our state presently does not have the authority to initiate a public corruption investigation without permission. We need to get rid of that. And we need to allow the AG to be very, very aggressive. I think we need transparency and accountability. What do those words mean? Politicians use them all the time. I've been using them a lot. Let me explain it. Transparency is that things happen in the light of day. And so we need to have fundamental reform in how things are done in Albany. And then we have to have accountability. And it's not just the Public Integrity Commission. We need an ethics entity with independence, true independence, and teeth. And we also need the ultimate accountability. And as citizens of the state, what's the ultimate accountability? Your ability to get rid of people if they're not doing your business. Since 1982, there have been over 2,900 state legislative elections in which an incumbent ran. 2,900. How many incumbents lost? Anyone have an idea? 39. Less than one, about 1.5%. And some of those folks were under indictment. So we don't have a system. We need to have nonpartisan redistricting. We need to have campaign finance reform. We have a whole host of things. But I'll tell you here's some good news. I'm in the race because I got angry about the corruption and what I saw. I have met a lot of very, very good legislators. 2 of them are at this table up here. They're really good and honorable people serving, and they're frustrated. They're frustrated because the system isn't working for them and not tapping for us, and not tapping their talents. I'm going to use some of the 2 minutes I didn't use before. And all right. And so I think you need something very different. You need a spark of reform, because doing the same thing over and over again isn't working. And I believe I'm that agent of reform, and I've proved that throughout my naval career and certainly on Wall Street. Thank you.
Mr. Schneiderman.
Yes, thank you. Well, look, as I'm the only person in modern Senator Montserrat, who this week rewarded my efforts by challenging me to a boxing match. If any of you read the Daily News on Tuesday. So I'm glad he's still thinking fondly of me. But that really emphasizes the point that you need to deal with the issue of public corruption, you need to have people in places like the Attorney General's office, who have demonstrated they are willing to stand up to the powers that be. Now, I assure you that my 10-year effort to throw Joe Bruno and his gang out of the state Senate while they moved through my district and tried to kill me off and wouldn't pass any of my bills, it was worth it. And today I'm in the Senate, I'm running for Attorney General. Joe Bruno just got 2 years and 3 years of probation in a sentence today. So I think that, first of all, I think it demonstrates that some public outrage helps a lot with prosecutors. But the most fundamental issue with regard to public corruption, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to having the will to stand up to the powers that be, is that we have to change the way we think about it, the way that we debate it. And why I introduced a new piece of legislation that would solve the potential constitutional problems with the federal law under which Senator Bruno was convicted, with Cy-Vance and with Mike Green and with other prosecutors, is this is about crime prevention. Financial disclosure forms are not like some good government egg-headed thing. This is about crime prevention. If Bruno had to reveal that his consulting firm was being paid by people doing business with the state, you would have stopped the crime. So we have to change the way we look at this. Corruption, to me, it's not just a matter of everyone paying the penalty. It is worse, because public officials have a higher standard and should be held to a higher standard. Again, as a progressive activist and a true believer in government as a force for good, I urge you, we have to be tougher on corruption than the Republicans and the conservatives. And that's, why I spent my career in the Senate fighting it, and I assure you, as attorney, if I can throw out a corrupt politician when he's staring me right in the face every day and asking if I need his vote for a bill, I think I can do a lot more as Attorney General. Thank you.
Ms. Wright?
I think, well, I'm not going to disagree with anyone up here, and I don't think anyone is going to disagree. I don't think there is room for corrupt public officials in the Democratic Party. It is really that simple. We have to stand for something. We have to stand up to those who betray the public trust. There is nothing like the public trust. There isn't. Nothing. You ask people to vote for you, and then you go and you serve them, and you use that opportunity to break that trust. That should be treated harshly, and I agree with Eric Schneiderman, even more harshly, because we should be held to a higher standard. I agree with Richard that it's it's a combination really of pushing for legislation that will expand the jurisdiction of the Attorney General beyond what it is now, but also, until that happens, using the tools, albeit limited, that the Attorney General has to look into these matters. Now, the one benefit that we have is that we have our next governor is incredibly reform-minded. Andrew Cuomo has been all about reform as Attorney General, and I believe he's going to be all about reform as governor. That is one less hurdle you have to jump when you have an executive at the top of the state government who is all about reform. So I think that all of the changes that we're talking about up here, as Democrats, we're going to be in a stronger position because we are going to have a very reform-minded governor in November.
Mr. Donallo?
Thank you. My career has been about using existing laws creatively to attack problems that need a solution with what you already have on the books. You're not going to get anything out of Albany on this. Albany is not going to swoop in with answers. I've issued a 6-point public integrity agenda that lays out how I think public integrity can be attacked from the Attorney General's office using existing laws and existing resources. And I hope you'll take a look at it. A couple of the points are amending the Charities Bureau rules there to increase transparency and stop the abuses of the pass-throughs of the number items. It involves asking, which I have, for the governor to issue an executive order, which I think is within his powers under Executive Law 63.3 and Executive Law 63.8, to give the Attorney General's office the criminal jurisdiction to do the cases. And it involves a use of the Tweed Act, or the Tweed